This is a quick video about writing grooves in odd times, bass and drum alignment, and then this concept of writing layered parts that imply polyrhythms in cycles. Okay, so first of all, we're in an odd time signature, and the first thing I've done is I've chosen a particular groove for the drums, and I've decided to do a repeating snare pattern, and I've chosen these locations because just from taste, I'm enjoying the feeling of off the beat. Now the basic clave here is 3 plus 2, and then the 3 is divided in half. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. So da 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 da, and then we're getting rid of the downbeat on 5 and just putting a pickup. So it's da 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 da. Okay, so that's our clave, and then the snare is on 3 and 5, off of where the bass is hitting, kick drum rather, and so it stands out and it kind of gives this kind of forward motion, sort of almost like a halftime feel. Okay, that's the basic groove. Okay, now what I'm about to describe up here could be also done in the snare. Like you could have a snare which is following a cycle that takes more than one measure to work out. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm doing a one measure cycle, but later on when we talk about this, you could apply these ideas down in the snare if you want. Anyway, now we're moving to the the bass. And the bass, we're taking the approach of having the bass be, well hooked up with the the kick drum mostly, right? So the bass attacks are lining up with the kick drum pretty closely, and only coinciding with the snare here. And so this is what that sounds like. Okay, so that provides a fairly unified feeling in the between kick and drum. Between bass and drum, sorry. Okay, now we start bringing in the layer idea. The layer idea is that we take a cycle that will take more than one measure to work out. So we're in 5/4, so if we have chord attacks that last for 2 beats, it's not going to work out after one measure. It's going to take 2 measures before it works its way back to the beginning. And the effect of this is sort of polyrhythmic, and it can create a cool texture. Here it is. This is what it sounds like. I'm not playing the melody yet, it's just the chords now. Chords, bass, and drums. Okay. Then the next thing you can do is you can have a cycle, another cycle in another part. I'm choosing the melody here, and I'm actually going to go ahead and keep. You know what? I think I'm going to get rid of these repeats here and just go ahead and make it last for 3 measures. So we'll copy this over, and this way, right here, the chord cycle is starting over. But you can see the melody cycle is not going to start over again until we get to the 4th measure. And at that time, the melody will not be, the chords will not have started over. So the chords and the melody are still off from each other, and it would take actually 6 measures for it to come back. But at least you can hear one cycle here. So here we go. Now we're bringing in the melody, which is using groups of 3 beats. The chord cycle is using groups of 2 beats, and the melody is using a cycle of 3 beats. Here we go. And then it's starting, I don't have a 6-beat thing here, but you get the sense of how everything is moving. There's this feeling of sort of all these layers, but you can control it by working out when it all comes back together, and it's interesting. It can create some really interesting effects. And it's great if you're talking about film scoring. This kind of thing is great when you have a lot of sort of movement and complex interactions going on, like because there's this feeling of this happening over here and then this thing's happening over there, but there's this kind of through line that kind of connects everything that maybe the listener isn't consciously aware of, but which you can control by how long each cycle is and where it all comes back to the beginning. So anyway, that's just an idea to be aware of. Whether or not you can apply that to this week's thing, don't worry about it. But in a way, it's kind of like using layered mixed meter is kind of the way you might describe it, or layers that imply polyrhythms.